Another thing I didn't mention, in a lab setting, you would also have your hair pulled back when you're cooking with other people, but at home you can be a little bit more relaxed. And after you mess with your face, your glasses, your hair, it's always a good idea just to wash your hands again. All right, so all we've mixed is our butter and sugar, two great things of any kind of baking recipe. So texture is pretty creamy. We can tell that it's mixed in really well. So now we are ready to add our vanilla and our eggs. So our measurement for our vanilla is 1 teaspoon, and this recipe calls for 2 eggs. So when you measure vanilla is very strong in flavor, smells really good, but it is strong in flavor. So you just want to make sure that you're not that you're using the correct amount. Measuring spoons come on a ring. Measurements are on the handles. Measuring spoons, usually traditional set will start with a 1/4 teaspoon, 1/2 teaspoon, 1 teaspoon, and then jumps to 1 tablespoon. Mine actually comes with a 1/2 tablespoon also. But 1 teaspoon fills a tablespoon 3 times. So it takes 3 teaspoons to make 1 tablespoon, okay? So for this recipe, we just need 1 teaspoon. So I'm paying attention to the TSP, the abbreviation, and making sure I'm not accidentally using the tablespoon because that would be too much. All right, so I'm actually just gonna measure over an empty container in case I pour too much. Okay, I've got my teaspoon I'm gonna add. Now I'm gonna use that teaspoon, rinse that out for me, because I'm gonna use it again for 2 other ingredients. And I'm just gonna set this to the side because I am finished with that. That's good. You can use paper towel to, yeah. All right, so now I need to add my eggs for my recipe. So sometimes you can just add eggs directly to your bowl. It's just, sometimes it's a good idea to do it in a small bowl in case you get shell in there, then you're able to pick it out versus like picking it out of your other ingredients, okay? So, I'm just gonna crack my egg. Okay, and you open the trash for me, bud? Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and wash my hands again because egg is raw. And that would be known as cross-contamination. Cross-contamination is germs from one surface to another. So I'm just going to use my paper towel. Alright, so we've got our eggs. We're just going to add that to our mixture and turn back on our mixer. And again, you can use a handheld mixer. We've got a cream mixture, and it's got our butter, our sugar, our eggs, and our vanilla. So now we're going to make our dry mixture. We're going to do that in a large mixing bowl. So our first ingredient we're going to add is our flour. So it says, in another bowl, stir together flour, baking soda, cream of tartar, and salt. So our flour measurement is going to be 3 cups. This makes a lot of cookies. So flour packs really easily, and that's one thing that you need to know about flour. So you don't really want to scoop it because then it could pack down. So I teach in my class the best way to do that is just to use a large heaping spoonful into your dry measuring cup. Take your flat edge and go straight across, leveling it off, okay? You don't want to push it down, you don't want to tap it because that would cause it to settle and to level. So do you feel like you can measure a cup of flour for us? Okay. And just measure over the same container. When you're working with a group, it's so much easier to kind of tag team and clean as you go. And you would be dividing out steps, like you're in charge of this or you're in charge of this. Other teachers may, other FCS teachers may set it up differently at your school, but we just divide out our jobs and then we all tackle the cleaning. But while someone was finished with their job, they could go over to the sink and start sanitizing, washing dishes. Okay, now if you get like that, when you level it, right, so we got our 3 cups of flour, and when I'm doing this in a normal demo, I'm always like, did I do 3 or did I do 2? Like, I lose count to 3, oh my gosh. But anyway, so my students are always paying attention to make sure I'm doing it right. Okay, our next thing is we're gonna add a teaspoon each of baking soda and cream of tartar, and Jayden already rinsed off my measuring spoons, so I'm good with that. All right, so I need a teaspoon of each of baking soda and cream of tartar. Baking soda is your leavening agent, and it will help make the cookies fluffy, and snickerdoodles are really light and airy. So when you do this, you can just measure inside your box, and then use the top of your box to help you level off. Okay, or you could pour it and level it off yourself, but that's just one little thing you can do. But can you put that back over there for me? You don't have to put it in the cabinet, just set it over to the side. All right, cream of tartar also works in helping the cookies and their texture. So in this one, I do need to kind of pour it because this spout is too small. Miss Thompson's messy sometimes, so I definitely always measure over something in case I get too much. It's not all over my cabinet, but I do kind of have a mess in the cabinet over here, but it's all good. All right, so I'm gonna level off, back and forth. I can get a little bit more in there. All right. You'll find that when people make a recipe over and over, they may not even measure anything because they just know the amounts visually. They can just kind of guesstimate. But with cookies, I always measure everything. Okay, so we got our cream of tartar and our baking soda, and now we need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So salt is something you use very little of, and that's our smallest spoon right here. So again, I am going to measure over a container. All right, so I always tell my kiddos that they need to use a whisk to stir those things. So I'm going to use my whisk. And one thing in labs that we do is we take inventory, and that's where we take out all of our utensils before we start. So that would already be ready to go. All right, so I'm just going to whisk this together. And this is just making sure just even those little bits of the cream of tartar, baking soda, and salt get completely mixed in with the 3 cups of flour. And there we have our dry mixture. So I can go ahead and make space by putting these things in the sink over here, okay? And it says that we are going to gradually add it to the dry mixture. So gradually means not all at one time, okay? And I want you to think about why we would do that, okay? So you can go ahead and push stop for a second.